All right, let's break down what we actually know about the disappearance of the Springfield Three: Cheryl Levitt, Susie Streeter, and Stacy McCall. And then we're going to kind of look at the theories and the major roadblocks that have stood in the way of justice for over 30 years. So, part one, the timeline. On June 6, 1992, Stacy McCall and Suzanne Streeter graduated from Kickapoo High School in Springfield, Missouri. That night, the two girls attended several graduation parties, just kind of party hopping, having a good time. They originally planned to kind of stay in a hotel room, I think in Branson, but decided at the last minute to spend the night at Susie's house, where her mom, Cheryl Levitt, also lived at. It was 1717 East Delmar. So, between 1 and 3 a.m., though, there's two separate alleged sightings that occur. We have a waitress from a local diner, it happened to be Cheryl's favorite diner, who says that she knew the women and claims she saw all three of them. She says that Susie looked intoxicated and that Cheryl was trying to kind of calm her down, keep her quiet. But we also have the semi-conflicting 2:15 a.m., where a gas station clerk claims that he saw Stacy and Susie together, or that he saw Cheryl. There's kind of different stories there. Both of these sightings are basically unconfirmed, or all three, whatever you want to say. They remain a part of the public timeline, and they're technically all possible. That morning of June 7th, friends came by to pick up the girls for a trip to Whitewater after they failed to show up where they had planned, which I believe was at Janelle's house. When they didn't arrive, the friend and her boyfriend, I believe the friend is Janelle Kirby, went to Cheryl and Susie's house because they knew that's where they were ultimately heading, to check on them, kind of just assuming that they may have overslept, blown them off, whatever. What they found, though, was super eerie. All three cars were in the driveway. Their purses, their cigarettes, bro. Nobody does that. Keys, all inside. The family dog was there. He's visibly kind of distressed. And the porch light cover was shattered, but not full. So the house looked otherwise undisturbed, but nobody seemed to answer the door. So ultimately, the friend and her boyfriend entered. They cleaned up the glass that was on the front porch, allegedly because one of them was barefoot. They listened to a couple voicemails, I think. Police weren't called in until much later. And by then, the scene was completely contaminated, done. Police later said that this, community interference, which is not how it was viewed to the community, by the way, contributed to the lack of evidence that the house, could have held. I mean, there are potential crucial forensics, such as, fingerprints, fibers, blood, hair, but any of that trace was likely erased by the time law enforcement, secured the scene. Same time, though, I feel as though if anybody's seen blood, they would have mentioned it unless they did it. A detail worth noting, though, is a friend of Susie's named, I believe, Nigel, stated that Susie's car was not parked in the regular spot. Some chalk this up to a late night partying, or maybe there'd been, some alcohol, or just the presence of the extra car in the driveway because Stacy's car was also there. But it does raise the possibility that someone else parked her car there last. Another detail is Stacy's clothes, right? So the only outfit she reportedly had with her was neatly folded on the bed in Susie's room. So all three women had fairly different body types, but based on their physical descriptions, it is entirely possible that she may have borrowed something, just to sleep in, whatever. That has never been confirmed, but even if it was ill-fitting, harassing phone calls had kind of been reported by friends and something that had been happening, and conveniently, while that friend and boyfriend were in the house, they received a sexually harassing phone call. Now, there's no documentation as to whether or not these calls were ever reported to the police before the disappearance. So, Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, later stated that she checked the answering machine. She checked it herself when she went to the house to see what the hell was going on. That act deleted previously saved voicemails, including one that was, reportedly strange or unsettling, and the police were really interested in that specific message. Though, ultimately, they didn't believe, for some reason, I guess based on the description, that it wasn't related to the earlier sexual-sounding calls that had been described by Janelle Kirby. So, none of the three women ultimately showed up for any scheduled responsibilities. So, Cheryl had a doctor's appointment on Monday, June 8th. No show. Stacy was scheduled to work Monday at Springfield Gymnastics. Also no show. Susie had a shift at a local movie theater. I'm assuming there's probably only one. There seems to be one of everything else. Tuesday, June 9th at 4, she also did not show. So that makes it increasingly less likely they're still just partying off vacation. So now we're going to kind of discuss some sightings and strange tips. Robert Craig Cox, a convicted kidnapper, a suspected serial offender, once worked alongside Stacy McCall's father at a local car dealership. I guess that could be unrelated. But at the time of the disappearance, Cox initially told the police that he was out of the area on June 7th, 1992, but he later recanted. His alibi was supported by a girlfriend that he had at the time, who eventually admitted years later that she had lied at his request. So, in 1997, Cox told a journalist that he knew the 3 women were dead, and that their bodies would probably never be found. He stated that he would disclose their locations and any information, whatever, but only after his mother passed away. Shocker, his mother has not passed away, at least not as of 2021, which is the last update I could find on that. So, Cox has never revealed any further information so far. As of 2025, he was eligible for parole, but it was denied in June. Shocker. So, one witness claimed to have seen a terrified woman driving a Dodge van late on the night of June 7th. Supposedly, she fit the description of Cheryl. According to the witness, a male voice, unseen, was heard telling the woman not to do anything stupid. The logistics of how this voice was overheard remain unclear, like were they at a stop sign waiting to cross the road, was the window down, like... Anyways, another witness reported seeing what appeared to be the same van in the local grocery store parking lot. I understand there's one. Sorry, there's one. He claimed the driver was a blonde woman, which would also fit one of the missing women, and that he wrote down the license plate number, only to discard it before alerting police. Investigators later hypnotized the man in an attempt to retrieve the number, any information, but he was only able to recall the first 3 digits, letters, numbers, whatever. This lead ultimately went nowhere. I'm not really sure how. I mean, how many vans were that color, make, model, with those 3 digits, whatever. A separate but equally baffling moment came when this anonymous caller phoned the America's Most Wanted hotline. And they claimed to have like the super vital information about the Springfield 3. So before law enforcement could speak to him or like get patched in or whatever, the call was disconnected. Not sure on whose end or why. There's no record that he ever reached out again. They did attempt to, ask him to, but there's no record if he did. As for Cheryl Levitt's past, first and second ex-husbands, some sources claim that the second one, there's no records of him post-disappearance, while others claim he's remarried in 1993. So I'm really not sure on that. The first husband just also didn't seem very into it. But due to conflicting accounts, it's still really unknown whether the police ever interviewed or considered the second husband a suspect, or if they ruled him out entirely, or whatever the situation was.